Understanding systemic inequality. Systemic inequality refers to deeply rooted disparities in wealth, education, healthcare, and opportunity that persist across generations. Unlike individual discrimination, it is embedded in policies, institutions, and social structures. These inequalities disproportionately affect marginalized communities, making upward mobility difficult and reinforcing existing gaps in privilege and power. Historical roots of systemic inequality. Many systemic inequalities stem from historical injustices, such as colonialism, slavery, and segregation. Over time, these practices created cycles of disadvantage, where certain groups had limited access to land, education, and economic opportunities. Even after legal barriers were removed, the lingering effects of these policies continue to shape society. Education disparities and limited opportunities. Access to quality education is a major factor in systemic inequality. Schools in low-income areas often receive less funding, have larger class sizes, and lack experienced teachers. This results in fewer opportunities for students from disadvantaged backgrounds, limiting their chances of higher education and well-paying jobs, which perpetuates economic disparity. Economic inequality and the wealth gap. Wealth inequality is one of the most visible aspects of systemic inequality. Policies that favor the wealthy, such as tax breaks for corporations and real estate advantages, contribute to a growing gap between rich and poor. Those born into wealth have access to better resources, while lower-income families struggle to break out of poverty. Healthcare disparities and unequal access. Systemic inequality is evident in healthcare, where marginalized communities often receive lower quality treatment and have limited access to medical facilities. Factors like higher costs, location-based disparities, and racial biases in medical treatment contribute to poorer health outcomes for disadvantaged groups. The role of discriminatory policies. Laws and policies can either reduce or reinforce systemic inequality. Redlining, for example, prevented minorities from obtaining home loans, creating long-term economic disadvantages. Similarly, biased hiring practices and wage gaps continue to prevent equal opportunities in the workforce. Addressing these issues requires policy reforms that promote fairness and equity. Criminal justice and racial bias. Systemic inequality is also prevalent in the criminal justice system. Studies show that marginalized groups are more likely to face harsher sentences, police brutality, and wrongful convictions. These disparities stem from racial profiling, unequal legal representation, and biases within law enforcement institutions. How can systemic inequality be addressed? Addressing systemic inequality requires comprehensive policy changes and active social movements. Improving education funding, implementing fair wage policies, reforming criminal justice systems, and ensuring equal healthcare access are essential steps. Governments, businesses, and individuals all play a role in dismantling discriminatory structures. The power of grassroots movements. Social movements and activism have historically played a crucial role in challenging inequality. From the civil rights movement to modern-day advocacy for economic and racial justice, grassroots efforts push for policy changes and hold institutions accountable. Public awareness and collective action are key to achieving systemic reform. Building a more equitable future. Eliminating systemic inequality requires long-term commitment and collaboration across all sectors of society. By recognizing disparities, advocating for fair policies, and ensuring access to opportunities for all, a more just and equitable world can be created. True progress happens when systemic barriers are dismantled, allowing everyone a fair chance to succeed.